the IT teams at these companies are phenomenal. They're brilliant. Right. They have all the training and experience, and they have the construction knowledge and history to do that. But you're asking them to do that on top of all of the other things that they've been doing, that they need to do to keep their people connected to one another.
Yeah.
And then to boot, now there's cyber attack threats against that company on top of it.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to our show today, and thank you so much for being here and tuning in. I've got Annie Brown from the AGC today. So, Annie, I just want to go ahead and kind of start with just people understanding, who you are. What's your background? I know you've worked in construction for a long time, but kind of talk about, your background and obviously what you do for the AGC.
So my name is Anne Brown, and I work for the Associated General Contractors of Michigan. I'm their director of membership. We're a nonprofit association. So while I'm director of membership, we all wear many hats. So it's basically our job, our staff's job, to ensure that our members are, that their voice is heard, and that they have services to ensure that they can perform the work that they're meant to do successfully and effectively. And that's construction, building buildings, building facilities. And there's a whole lot that goes into building facilities and delivering a successful project outcome to our customers. And so the association is wonderful because we can connect and network with one another, share challenges, share best practices, and then engage our members with what we call a professional service provider, or a company like Grit Technologies, so that they can not have to do all of the legwork in identifying the best service providers in the state to help them do what they do best, building buildings safely. That's what we want to do, right?
One of the things that stood up about you, and that's why I'm glad you're here today, is just you have a kind of a passion, or just you have a very big interest in kind of like the technology side of things when it comes to construction. And it, especially for like my area of expertise, like construction always seems like it was almost like repelled at some point, and it's like, it seems, especially with the events of like 2020, but even before that, I think it's safe to say like there's been kind of a big adoption happening. What are some things you've seen, or what's kind of the trends that you've seen, going on with that?
Well, and you and I have had so much fun talking about this, because I think that we really did. The construction industry was always behind in adapting technology. There was a certain generation of folks in the industry that when we would present them with, tech solutions, whether it be hardware, a physical tool that they could use, or software, a program that would make things more efficient, they wanted nothing to do with it. Cell phones. Even early on, cell phones, we had a contingent of folks in the field that were strongly opposed to having cell phones. Why do I need you to be able to call me at any time during the day? I call these folks the salt of the earth fellas. They're amazing, but it really did slow the industry's adaptation to new technology. So all around us, we're exploding with things that we can use to make operations more efficient. But construction just took forever to pick up on that. COVID, certainly, and it's almost like tired to talk about COVID now, right? Because it's just become part of our lives. But COVID, and the idea that people weren't leaving their houses and trying to work remotely, advanced the construction industry as far as adaptation to technology and more layers of remote work, and how do we structure working remotely. Because if you think about it, you can't do our job from home. Some people can, right? But you still need to have boots on the ground constructing a facility. And that didn't stop. The commitments that we had to our clients and owners were still going to be there, right? They needed to complete that hospital. They had a pro forma that they had to meet on this mixed use development where they had tenants coming in. And to the best of the industry's ability, we were back in the field and working way earlier on than other industries that didn't have to leave their homes. But we needed the infrastructure to be able to do that. We needed folks to finally say, we have to adapt. So COVID did that. Another piece is that construction companies are really embracing data and tracking data and leveraging data and that project history to reduce costs, to stay on schedule.
Yeah.
The one thing that I'll tell you is that in my many years of working in the construction industry, it's come down to two things. That ultimately, it doesn't matter how sexy the company is, how many projects they've done in historic preservation or healthcare. It really ultimately is budget and time.
Yeah.
Get the cost down and do it faster. And just when you think that you've done something the fastest you've ever done it, this new facility is demanding that you do it 6 months faster than the one before. So you really have to look back and say, how are we going to change our methods to be cheaper and faster with the tools that we currently have? We're going to have to embrace technology, right? We're going to have to do something different. Mm-hmm. And so companies are starting to develop in-house applications, but they're construction companies. And this is where you and I have laughed.
Right.
There's brilliant people working at these construction companies. Of course, I'm biased, but I think, the best of the best in the world work for my member construction companies.
Yeah.
These folks are developing applications and tools in-house or with an outside partner, but with their knowledge of the industry that are phenomenal.
Right.
Why didn't we do that years ago? That's thing number one, but here we are. But now also they've kind of put themselves in the technology space where they haven't danced before.
Right.
And so their needs they're scrambling to be able to facilitate their day-to-day help desk, login and password, security, safety, connectivity needs. But then they also are trying to manage a software application. They've become a computer software company.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And they want to keep that in-house because it becomes this competitive edge. Mm-hmm. And I have several AGC member companies that have developed some pretty phenomenal in-house software that they could probably sell and make a lot of money off of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And licensing is kind of the whole other part
of
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it's like, well, we have to wake up in the morning and say, well, what do we do for a living? Mm-hmm. Are we a software company or are we a construction company? And so that the shift in staff and in culture has happened rapidly.
Yeah.
And the ability to hire people to manage that new niche of your business while you're still doing your day-to-day technology activities,
right.
It's become very fascinating. So
how people are responding to the development of their IT needs right now, it seems like it's there's some new innovation director role, something like that going on. What's that about?
So it's kind of exciting for me. Because the organization that I worked with before I joined AGC, they were early adapters of using data. They were talking about data, and some folks were laughing it off. Mm-hmm. And we were all in on data. It was a strategic planning goal for us. But it was before you started hearing a lot about it outside of our organization. And then all of a sudden, Autodesk came up with a book about leveraging data in the subcontractor world. So specifically using construction data to support growth and to meet the budget and the schedule, et cetera, and to earn more work and to earn more profit, safety, all of it for subcontractors. And it was a booklet created by Autodesk. And then you start to see these online degrees from Princeton, and it was data analytics online degree advertisements, and you're going, okay, it's kicking up now.
Yeah.
And then you start to see advertisements for open opportunities at large construction companies where the job is vice president of innovation. Now, you would not have vice president of innovation in construction years ago, and I don't really even mean that many years ago. Even in the past 5 years, some companies were really forward thinking, right? Yeah. But most of them, the idea that you would have a full-time role, and looking at that, you have to look at the job description, because if I see a job description or a advertisement for project manager or a project accountant, I know what they do. Right. I don't need to look at the qualifications of the role description as it relates to construction. But a senior data analyst from a solid construction company, I'm like, all right then. what qualifications are you looking for this person? What is their history? It's a data person coming into a construction company.
Yeah.
But how do you seek out this person, and how did you define the role to pay someone full time to do this? And now a predominant quantity, or a large quantity of our years old, and some of our AGC members are well over 100 years old. So these are companies in Michigan that have been building, literally changing the landscape of our state for more than a century, right? Has a senior data analyst position.
Right.
I want that person deep down to have been in construction, because you can't analyze construction data unless you know what it means, right? Man hours per cost code. So the person has a data analytics degree from some fancy, or computer science or whatever it might be, from some fancy university, and they're whip smart. But what does that mean? Right? What does that data mean? And because it's so fresh and it's so new, I find it completely fascinating. These are roles that did not exist. And now here they are. Every company is both laser focusing and investing full-time salaries in innovation, which is wonderful, and data. I can only imagine, and have heard firsthand, that the IT departments in these companies are really chomping at the bit to get these roles filled, because until these roles are filled, who are the operations people of the company looking at when they want that data analyzed, when they want those custom software applications where now you plug in productivity and safety challenges and material costs and all of that? They're looking at their existing IT department. And I can imagine that the existing IT department is saying, y'all, we've scaled, doubled in size over the past, 5 to 10 years. We've merged with offices outside of our region that we had when I was hired. So now we have different states. We've added 600 to 1,000 employees that all need logins and passwords and computers and cell phones and trailer internet access and printers and all of the things that they've always done, but doubled in scale. And now you're turning to us and batting your eyelashes at us at our big strategic planning meeting to say, we also would like you to develop in-house software to analyze our data. And you know what else we would like to do too? We want you to be really innovative too, on top of all of it. The IT teams at these companies are phenomenal. They're brilliant. They have all the training and experience, and they have the construction knowledge and history to do that. But you're asking them to do that on top of all of the other things that they've been doing, that they need to do to keep their people connected to one another. And then, to boot, now there's cyber attack threats against that company on top of it.
Well, that's the big thing that we keep hearing about too, and that's the thing is what's interesting about that is like what you're saying. We see the strain too, not just in construction but everywhere else. We're seeing that these guys are killing it day in and day out. They're making things happen for their company. They truly love what they do. But they just don't have the hours anymore. And one of the interesting polls that I saw actually on Reddit, not sure if you're on Reddit or anything like that, but basically what it asked is all of these different IT professionals that are out there, whether they're a single IT person on staff or whatever, and no matter what type of organization you were, basically the question is are you able to how confident are you in that your current systems and the solutions and security that you have in place is going to withstand a breach? And overwhelmingly, what we found is that about 90% of them basically said that they don't necessarily feel confident that they would actually be able to withstand a breach of some type. So, not because of the lack of their abilities, not because of the lack of their proactiveness or their forward thinking or planning. It really there seems to be a struggle with conveying the cybersecurity threat, and having people understand that it is real, and getting the resources and the funding from the higher ups to say this is a problem. We need to really make sure that we are protected, so that when it's no longer if, it's when there is a attack of some type, that it's going to be very minimal, We're going to be able to respond to it very effectively. We're able to contain it very effectively, and we're going to be able to be back up and running in hours versus days or weeks.
Construction perspective too, I think that, like you said, a lot of folks are like, well, this can't happen to us, and so they continue on with business as usual.
Right.
Now I genuinely believe that, particularly at some of our larger companies, of course, that's not the case. They know that the threat is viable. They're still a little bit hesitant to believe that it would be this large, at such a large scale, but it's happened to Michigan companies that didn't expect it, and it will continue to do so.
There was actually a report recently. It's actually the Verizon report that actually they have a whole cybersecurity report every year. And one of the things on the report in the last few years has been actually a section for small to medium-sized businesses. And this has been interesting because typically it's not something that gets talked about as the SMB market. But what's happening is that ever since the events of 2020 and a little bit before that, there has been a significant rise in the amount of security breaches and also ransomware when it comes to small to medium-sized businesses. And this is a huge concern because of ultimately how detrimental and damaging, this breach or, a company succumbing to ransomware can be. So
to think that years ago, they were buying computers, right? Cell phones, maybe pagers. We had pagers for years, and the pager machine, that's how old I am. We would send no cell phones, and we would type pages to pagers from a machine at a desk.
Right.
Project managers running by and being like, Annie, send a message to Ray and tell him his stuff is here. But he didn't say stuff, and I'm typing, into the pager machine. How the world has changed for the better. But
yes.
Those companies didn't have these challenges before, right? And you and I had talked about this before too, where it was just the antivirus, and that was so scary.
Yeah.
Right. And like, you remember the McAfee, like you have to run the little antivirus, and we thought we was super sophisticated because we had antivirus before other people did, because we trusted that there was a threat there.
Right.
Well, that's nothing compared to what these phenomenal heart of America businesses are dealing with now.
Yeah, there's a story I heard recently through some mutual friends of mine of it was an architecture firm. It was an architect that kind of the same thing. Like, they knew the threat's real. They knew about what they should do, but never really took any action on it. And unfortunately, they were one of the ones where they did get a ransomware, and it was a significant ransom. But they got unfortunately also hit again with what we call a double extortion attack. So not only did you get hit with the fine or the ransom itself, which they ended up paying, they came back to him and said, cool, thank you so much for that. Now we have all of your data. Mm-hmm. We have actually all of these architectural plans. And he had tons of like new innovative designs and just like top-notch stuff. I mean, some amazing stuff. And basically said, now we want you to pay another ransom for us to not to distribute this to your competition.
Yeah.
Which they didn't do. And they never really heard anything else other than that. They got themselves back and running. But unfortunately what happened is they eventually went out of business. I think it was about 5 or 6 years later after that. Mainly because all of a sudden their competitors started implementing designs and they changed it enough to where legally they could get away with it. And I mean, it just ruined them. We're
talking about this in the context of construction companies, A, because I work for the Associated General Contractors of Michigan,
right.
And B, because that's what I know, right? Mm-hmm. My background. But there are, in the heart and soul of America, and we'll just have to pause for a minute for this special message from Ann Brown that is entirely my opinion, but it's shared by several, I'm sure, is that small to mid-sized businesses are the heart and soul of America, and there are thousands and thousands and thousands of them. And we need them. We need those electrical companies that keep the lights on, that are experts at what they do, but aren't going to have a giant in-house IT department. They're solid, larger companies in context, but they're not multi-billion-dollar companies, right?
Right.
They don't have, $5 million to invest in IT equipment and salaries. They're investing most of their funds directly back into the projects, to the materials and the people and the equipment that's used to install those materials, right? Their overhead is low. They want to keep it low, and they want to just keep talking about what they do and doing what they do. These companies of, anywhere from 20 to 100 people. If anytime that there's a bump in the road or an obstacle that prevents someone from continuing down the path so that they can achieve what they're meant to achieve, there's a cost there. And that's the interesting part, is that we often have to define return on investment, particularly because coming from a bid environment, right? It's tough because a lot of folks, we say you do a proposal and they're only going to look at the last page, the last page that has, well, this is what the cost is going to be.
Right.
And they don't see anything leading up to that last page. And how do you define or differentiate yourself from your competitors when that exists? And so when you're working with that industry as an outside service provider, that knowledge that that's the world that they live in, which can be very volatile, right? When it comes to taking a pause and really understanding what they get out of their investment, if it's not a tactile thing that you can see and touch. There are ways that you can define, for instance, returning that time to your employees. Well, how much is their time worth? Also, how much does it cost to shut down a construction company with, let's say, 100 active projects in multiple states for a day, 2 days, 3 days? It seems simple, right? Just a few days, no big deal. It's not. It's thousands and thousands, possibly millions, depending on the scale of the size of the company and the projects that they're on and what's lost in that process. And that's before you pay ransomware. The other piece is, and this is where employees, because I will tell you, and I'm sure it's not isolated to the construction industry, but messages from IT become white noise, right? You send an email to your team and say, we tested you all. A few of you got a spam email, and it was the CEO asking for you to cut a check or to give a account number or something like that. And 4 of you are busted. We caught you, right? This was a test, but someday it's not going to be a test. I can't tell you how many folks that email is unread. They see the IT team and they've just heard white noise forever. I read and I paid attention, and to all of my former IT staff, I love you. And you are the backbone of our companies, and I am endeared to you forever. However, you have several folks that are busy and they're just like, okay, I have to skip emails today to be able to get through the day and achieve what I need to achieve. And so it becomes white noise. And ultimately, you talked about those simple barriers between your organization and a cyber attack. And some of them are directly employee tied. It's not that complicated. Right. And so one of the features that I kind of try to remind people too is that these cyber attackers also, it's the company's profitability, which affects the bottom line, which affects your bonus, your pay, your raises. Think about that, y'all, that when the company has to spend money they didn't intend on spending, and when we lose time on projects, all of us hurt in the end. And I don't think people think that way.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But the other piece is that they have access to human resources stuff. So they have access to your personal information that they ultimately can sell or use nefariously, right? And so one of the things that I like about Grit as well, and a managed service provider, is that that's a outside source. That's a new face communicating threats and challenges to the employees. And you also have done such a magnificent job, I think, in making it fun, making it engageable, making it relatable to folks, so that they are hearing a voice and seeing someone that they're like, all right, he's described this challenge and I'm listening. You've got my attention, right? And I think that our talented IT departments need all the help they can get, because oftentimes it's a thankless job, and they're telling you this for a reason, and the team is just like, whatever. I've heard this so many times, and then they go back to using that password over and over and over again.
And I think it comes back to like picking the right partner too. Is piece.
Oh, partnership is huge too when you're a service provider that isn't necessarily industry specific. So I think Grit, organically picked up some construction clients, right?
Yeah.
And you graciously joined AGC after, I told you that you must join AGC, and that's my job. That's what I do.
You kind of pulled our arm and told us to come in. Yeah.
You belong now. And anyone that's listening, please contact me. No, I'm just kidding. But it's true. The stronger and larger our community is, the more exposure we have to one another to share challenges and ideas. Yeah. And one of the things that I've noticed with you and Max and the team at Grit is that when you come to and you're engaged with AGC, you have this concentrated audience of the best in construction telling you what they need. Now, when it comes to competitor professional service providers now seeking out business with these companies, which, by the way, construction is big, y'all.
Yeah.
And it's going to be big continually. The backlogs for our members are strong.
Well, we were talking about that earlier, even before we were recording, though. You were saying AGC companies alone. Like, what's...
Oh, my goodness.
Talk about that, actually. Well, that was interesting.
Well, and this is just big and fun, and it always fascinates me because, again, the more construction work this is my whole life, food on my table, roof over my head, my entire life. Yeah. So the more construction opportunities in Michigan for the people that I care about, so that they can continue to have rich lives and careers. I want it. I want the work, and I want it to continue to be strong. And
right.
So General Motors and Ford are now investing in autonomous vehicle and EV battery plants. These 100-plus-year-old companies in Michigan have earned close to $20 billion with a B, folks, $20 billion on a small handful of projects, 3 to 5 projects, if I recall correctly, that have all been announced within the past month or so.
Right.
And billions of dollars worth of work in Michigan and outside of Michigan for large automotive organizations in our state, directly to AGC member companies.
Yeah.
The busyness isn't going to stop. The growth isn't going to stop. The challenges aren't going to stop.
Right.
And we will continue to build, because that's what we do, and we never fail, right? And so it is magnificent. We need all the support that we can get to continue to rock it out, right?
Right.
It's another reason why we need people that specialize in industries like you guys. Do the research for me and tell me what's coming, so that I don't need to do it.
Well, that's exactly right. We'll do all the back end work. You don't have to think about it. You worry about what you're good at, which is propelling your business forward. We'll worry about protecting it and making sure ultimately that there's going to be no roadblocks with your technology at the end of the day. That's ultimately what we do and what we love to do. That's about. Well, thank you again,
Annie,
you so much for having me. This has been great, and thank you everybody for tuning in. We look forward to bringing more of this type of discussions for you. And we'll close with that. Thank you.
Sounds good.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.